Hey, yo. What is up, everybody? What is up? What is up? Man. What a week, huh? What a week. So, yeah. We're going to get into it all. Well, probably not all of it because there's too much to get into, right? But we're definitely going to touch on Charlie Kirk's assassination, the North Carolina train stabbing, just what the hell is going on in America, you know? Like, what are we doing? That's pretty much going to be the focus of the show tonight. So, as always, what I want from you guys, I want to see comments. I'm going to go back and forth with you all. I want you to tell me, like, you know, how you feel about things, how whatever happened affected you, and all, you know, and all that stuff. I want a conversation. And I think, of course, like, you know, this week was exceptionally eventful, and I won't even say, like, you know, good way or bad way. It was just eventful. There was a lot going on, and it kind of made me think, like, maybe like the live streams should just be talking about some current events, but like how they affect men, not solely men, but like that angle, you know what I mean? Because obviously we're not the only ones that live in this world and in this country and everything, but at the same time, we can definitely talk about it from a male viewpoint and kick around ideas on solutions and, you know, have a conversation. I think that's one of the things that we've definitely lost. I can't speak for other places in the world, but I definitely feel like we have lost it, you know? The ability to conversate. And that's so important. Like, it's ridiculously important to be able to talk about your viewpoints without feeling like you're gonna get murdered. You know what I mean? It just doesn't seem right, you know. No matter how you split it, like, there's something wrong with the country. And so what we'll do is, this might be a shorter stream because I don't feel like going into the react videos tonight, because like the topics they're kind of heavy. So then I don't want to be like, cover all these heavy topics and then, oh, let's just jump right over into watching this funny reel or whatever, you know? So tonight we're going to hit the topics and then we're going to move on. So kill this music. Maybe have a little cheat sheet, you know? So I can kind of make sure I hit all the topics I want to hit. But yeah, you know, just like overall, there's just something wrong with the country. You know, I don't know. And I have a feeling like every generation looks back at the, you know, the younger generation, and they're like, they're the ones that are messing it up, you know? But there's something wrong. There's something wrong with this generation coming up. And it's pretty frightening, you know? And it's not like, oh, they're listening to the devil music, the rock and roll, you know? It's like, no, they're, you know, calling for the death of people and then celebrating it. And, you know, it's just like, this is something else. This is something else. And I think there's a whole bunch of reasons like that the youth is so messed up right now in this country. Geez, I don't know. Maybe they were right. Violent video games. Maybe they were right. Rap and violent video games. God damn it. They were right. I don't know. I don't know, but I definitely think there is something to be said about like the being terminally online thing. It's just not good for us. It's just not good for us to spend so much time online. And if you look at how the younger generation, and I'm not talking like 10-year-olds, I'm talking 20s, they were born and raised on the internet. And the internet is a dark place. There's a lot of stuff on the internet that's just not good. And I feel like this might be a symptom of the internet raising our children for us. So this is like what we get, Everybody has the attention span of a goldfish. They believe whatever they read, which is really odd because, I remember before the internet, and I know that like most of the stuff you see on the internet's not true, but for whatever reason, like that fact is being forgotten by the younger generation. They just freaking eat it up, They just eat it up. So, yeah. Anyways, been a heavy week. Charlie Kirk assassinated, train stabbings, 9/11 today, remembering 9/11. That was crazy. That alone, that's a topic in itself just for a live stream. But I think I want to like start talking about like kicking off these two topics with just the talk about mental illness. Mental illness, I'm kind of torn. Obviously, mental illness is real. Duh. I don't think anybody's disputing that, But there just seems to be way more of it. And I know like one of the common pushbacks from people is, well, we're just better at diagnosing it. Yeah, probably that too. But I can just walk around and see way more weird people that I don't even know their diagnosis, and I can tell that they have some mental shit going on. I don't need to be a doctor. I just look at them and be like, you're not normal. I don't know what's going on with you, but you're not normal, And I just don't remember feeling that way like when I was in my 20s, Yeah, there was people that were weird and there was people that had mental illness, but it just seems to be way more like prevalent nowadays. And and I don't know what that's from exactly, but it's the undercurrent. I think it's the undercurrent for all of the shit that we're going through right now. Because how are you supposed to have a reasonable conversation with somebody if they're mentally ill? It's like trying to reason with a drunk person, I don't know. That saying's been around for a long time. You like don't argue with a drunk person. You're not going to win because it takes, when you're drunk, it takes rational thought and logic out of the equation. So how do you make points? How do you prove points to somebody when they're not going off logic? They're just going off of emotions and, I don't know, like the voices in their head. You know what I mean? Like, how do you get through to those people and try to convince them that whatever they're thinking is wrong or right or whatever, But something's got to give. Something's got to give. It feels like, I was thinking about this, and I think I saw like a video on this. I don't even. I think it was like not Smokey the Bear, but it was a video about forest fires, or something like that. And it was this like park ranger, and he's standing in front of like a fire pit, and there's like a bunch of kids standing around, and he's like, this, it's a fire pit, but there's no fire going, and he's like, ask them, is this a fire? And they're like, no, it's a fire pit. He's like, all right. And he like lays down a twig, and he's like, is this a fire? And they're like, no, it's not. And he kind of goes through that. He keeps like laying down more and more kindling until he takes out a ferro rod, and he's like, boom, and he hits a spark, and the thing just, because obviously he had really dry tinder and kindling and all that stuff, and boom, it just like, and he was like, is that a fire? And they're like, yeah, it's a fire or whatever. And his whole point was like, all it takes is like one spark, like flicking a cigarette butt off into the dry underbrush, and then boom, you have a forest fire. My point is, all of this stuff that keeps happening, all of this stuff, these little things, when you take it by just its one thing, you're like, okay, it's not a fire yet. It's not a fire yet. But when you have so many pieces of kindling, all it takes is a spark, and boom. And that is what I'm afraid of. Like, I'm afraid of that. And everybody's always like, well, not everybody, but people are like, civil war, yeah. It's like, no one wants that. No one wants civil war. I'm definitely not advocating for it. And also, like, people are so stupid that they think like America would just be like warring with each other in the streets, and China's going to be like, yeah, we'll just leave you guys alone while you're at your weakest. You know what I mean? Come on. Like, our foreign enemies aren't just going to chill while we're like destroying each other from the inside. They're going to help push things along. They probably already are helping, with bots and pushing a narrative and, all that stuff. But I am afraid that all of these things will spark something that we can't take back. And the media they have blood on their hands for sure. And I remember when I think it might have been CNN was the first one, but it was like the birth of cable news and the cable news cycle and the 24-hour news cycle. And the fact that they had to suddenly, it wasn't like, oh, okay, we got to take everything that happened during the day and we're going to condense it down to a news segment at 6 o'clock every night. No, they needed to talk about something 24 hours a day. I think that was a problem. I think that was a big problem, because now when something happens, they just hang on it, and they're not even like, because they're talking live, they're not even fact checking things sometimes and pushing out things, and if you never go back and double check, you're going to be in the wrong because you heard the wrong story. Like, it's just so bad. And then they're just, each side, they're all the same. Left, right, Fox News, CNN, all the same. They're all bought and paid for by, their advertisers and their donors and all that stuff. And all of them are just pointing at the other side. You're the problem. No, you're the problem. And when in reality, there's problems on both sides. And like this stream is not going to be talking about which side's correct and all that stuff. I'm just talking about, we're not in a good place as a country. We're not in a good place as a country. And I think mental illness is one of the biggest issues. Now, let's talk about the train stabbing. Okay? So I am typically not one that goes out and looks for the footage. I don't like seeing that stuff. You know, it haunts me pretty much. Like, it will replay in my mind a lot. It's very, like, it's a very sticky thought, you know, or vision or whatever. But sometimes I feel like I have to, you know, I have to be informed about something, because you can hear about something bad happening and be like, oh yeah, that bad thing happened somewhere else, you know, but when you see it and you like watch it, it might as well have been happening like in my living room, you know, to me anyways. It changes my emotion towards it. And so anyways, basically this young lady from the Ukraine, war refugee, comes over, you know, in theory, escaping the war. And that's a whole other topic of that thing. But she comes over to escape the war, has a job, doing her thing. You know, I'm not going to say she's like, I don't even know. Like, I don't know if she's like a role model or an amazing person. I have no idea. All I know is she came over here looking for something better, went through the proper channels, obviously, and couldn't even survive our public transportation. You know, she was finishing up work, I guess, going home, sits down on the train in front of this gentleman that, you know, I'm definitely not gonna like pick on her for her like awareness, you know what I mean? Because like hindsight's always 2020, right? It's really easy to armchair quarterback what she should have done, and she should have known he was crazy and not sat in front of him, or she shouldn't have been on her phone or with her ear pods in or whatever. That's beside the point. You know, that's beside the point. Because in a perfect world, she shouldn't have to do that. She should just be able to get on the train and sit wherever the fuck she wants to sit and not get stabbed, you know? So anyway, she sits down. In my mind, this guy clearly looks deranged, but, you know, he has a hood on. And I'm not sure if people heard him muttering or what, but you could clearly see in the video, he takes out a folding knife. He unfolds it. He stands up and he stabs her in the neck, like from behind, you know? And it's graphic, you know? But it's graphic in a little bit of a weird way. Because so a lot of times when people are like in a fight, they don't even know they've been stabbed. They think they've been punched. Because if you think about it, gonna grab a knife, but anyways, if you think about it, like the blade of the knife, you know, it's very thin. So it goes in, and then what ends up hitting you is a fist, basically, right? So wham, wham, wham. I think he does 3, if I remember correctly. And I think for a good amount of seconds, she just thinks that like some random dude stood up and like slapped her and punched her and like whatever. And then, you know, she she bleeds out. And what's so sad is the reaction of people on the train. Most all of the women, I think you could see two, so it's like hard to say, but they're like sitting in their chair and like the window's here, and they're on their phone and it happens over there and they're like, I'll just pretend like nothing's happening. I'm just gonna stare at my phone even harder and kind of tuck my head in the window of the train, and then maybe this dude that's running around stabbing people will just go away. And then one of the guys, I think, like, he stands up and he's kind of like what just happened? And I don't know if he like kind of runs after the guy, but there's not a whole lot of urgency in his steps either, And she's kind of like looking around and then like covers her face and she's like kind of crying, but I do not think she realizes that she's dying, And she ends up dying, surrounded by a bunch of people who don't give a shit about her. Didn't jump up to assist and help, and and so I think the last thing I heard was that the guy that stabbed her was schizophrenic. And schizophrenia is one of the most terrifying mental illnesses there is. I worked security in a hospital for a little while, and those patients were always the most scary, because they could think the craziest stuff, but in their mind, it was 100% real. It was reality. If their mind was telling them that I was a purple dinosaur, absolutely they believed it without a shadow of a doubt. Okay? So turns out he's schizophrenic and has like a reason in his head. He's like something about implants in his brain, whatever. I don't care. He's schizophrenic, mentally ill, and he has the reasoning to stab this lady, this young girl. She was 23, I think. And I find myself losing my empathy as I get older. I'm like, I just don't care anymore that this person was mentally ill, or this person, or that person grew up without a mommy and a daddy, and this person over here was in poverty, and it's like, I don't care anymore. Life is hard enough for everybody. Everybody's life is hard in one way or the other. Don't make my life harder worrying about getting stabbed on a train. You know what I mean? Like, you can have empathy to a certain point, but past a certain point, it's not productive. Right? Who is moving the country forward? A schizophrenic homeless man stabbing people on a train, or somebody that's coming and going from their job to their home, working, paying taxes, inputting, and like, she was a refugee, so I don't know what her status was with paying taxes or whatever. But there was in New York not too long ago, there was a whole thing where the crazy homeless guy I think he was threatening to stab a lady. Guy jumps up, actually does something about it, saves this woman's life, saves who knows how many lives, and gets taken to fucking court because the guy died. Why aren't we protecting and having empathy for the people that are bettering our society. I'm not saying be mean to people that have mental illnesses. I'm not saying treat them cruel. What I am saying, though, is the two demographics of people, you know, person A, schizophrenic homeless guy on a bus or train, and person B, lady that's just trying to commute from work, they're not the same. They're not in the same category. So stop treating them the same. You know, we're championing the wrong people. It's not productive to our society. And then the weird part about this all is there's this odd, like, I don't know if duality is the word for it, but there's like this weird clash. Let me explain. It's like on one hand, we have all of these laws that like burden me, you know? If the speed limit's 35 and I'm doing 45, I get pulled over, I get a ticket. All right, okay, well, all right. Well, if I can't come up with my taxes when the tax deadline's due, I'm going to get fined or I'm going to go to jail. You know, I can't just walk into a store and steal something, et cetera, right? On and on and on. We have all these rules, lots of rules, more laws. But then at the other side of the coin, we're dealing with like third world country shit. Like I can't go to Walmart without being afraid I'm going to get stabbed, or ride public transportation, or go to a park because I might step on a dirty needle. Like there's so many examples on either side of like, I have to do all these things, but it doesn't lead me to like live a good life because I still have all this other stuff that I got to worry about. If I had kids, I'd be afraid to send them to school because there might be a school shooting, you know, just like on and on and on. And it's just so weird. It's like such a weird concept to think about. It's like, I have to jump through all these hoops to be a good citizen. And then there's this dude over here that stabbed somebody on a train and everybody's like, yeah, but he had mental illness. I know. Clearly. I'm not shocked. Why is he still riding the train with her or me or this person? You know what I mean? Like, I'm paying taxes. Fix this fucking problem. And that doesn't mean it needs to be a violent fix, you know? But we've thrown money at these issues. Oh my God, we've thrown money. So much money. You know, so much money. But I know, like, if you know anything about schizophrenia, the problem is getting them to take their meds is like almost impossible. And then people are like, well, what are you going to do? Make them? Well, we used to, you know? I think it was Reagan that shut down the asylums and kicked everybody out onto the streets. You know, the asylums definitely weren't great. You know what I mean? Like, they definitely weren't great. And I don't know if that's the answer or not, but my God, you know, like, I wouldn't be opposed to it. Like, after so many strikes, if they're violent strikes and you are showing a sign of mental illness and violence, bye. Get the fuck out. Because I will be going to work still. And if I have to ride the train, I want to be able to ride the train without getting stabbed in the neck. Bottom line. Just reading the chat here. Yeah, for sure, Don. If I can flip this over. Yeah, no, I agree. I think the problem with diagnosing and then prescribing, it's like, oh yeah, we got a pill for that. And your insurance will pay. You definitely have that problem. Here's your prescription. You know? Yeah, totally. Yeah, so on one hand, more laws than ever. On the other hand, it's like none of them benefit me, you know? And it's super frustrating. It's super frustrating because I just want the best for everybody. You know what I mean? But I think also, like, as you get older, when you're younger, you kind of like you like have this rosy outlook on life, you know? And then as you get older, you sort of start to see what reality is and understand that no, not everybody can be whatever they want to be, you know? Not everybody is going to be an astronaut, even if they want to be an astronaut. It's just not the way that it works. There's a ceiling to people's capabilities, you know, just the way it works. And I think as you get older, you start to like realize those types of things. And sometimes some of those things end up being, yeah, people with mental illness are probably going to have mental illness their whole life, you know? And I don't want to have to deal with it. Like, my taxes should go to that, you know? Cool. Well, they are, right? But they're still on the train stabbing people. So it's like, I thought I was paying money to have this problem taken care of. It'd be like if you had a lawn care guy, you pay them to mow the lawn, and every day you walk out and you're like, dude, you didn't mow the lawn. Oh, yeah. Well, I was gonna mow the lawn, but see, I grew up in a house without a dad. And my mom, you know, I don't care. You didn't mow my lawn. Like, this is what I paid for. So when our taxes go to take care of these problems, homeless shelters and all this stuff, it's like, I wrote you the fucking check. I wrote it. I sent it in. You cashed it. What did you do with it? You know? It's yeah, those kids are adults now. Exactly, Don. 100%. Yeah. And so the other thing, like getting back to the reaction on that, the train, you know, the lack of caring for your fellow man that I saw on the train was just, you know, just people didn't care. And I think kind of like culturally, we no longer feel like it's our duty. Like we don't have a, we feel like we don't have a duty to our fellow man anymore. You know, which is weird. And I think that there's like all sorts of reasons for that. Like we don't have small neighborhoods anymore. Like literally, if you ask me who lived right over there, I do not know. Like I'd be like, yeah, the old guy with the beard and the lady that sits on her deck and smokes all day. Those are those two people. They live there. I don't know them. I don't know their names. You know, they're not coming over and asking me for like a whatever, a cup of sugar. You know, like those times are gone. And it's that disconnect that I think dehumanizes people and drives us further apart. you know? And I think it's always been men's role to step up and to sacrifice in times of emergency. Like even on the train, you know? Like that type of an emergency. Back in the day, men would have jumped up and sacrificed their life for that stranger, especially since she's a young woman. Like men would have laid down their lives for her, you know? And I think a couple things have happened, and that's why it doesn't happen that way anymore. And one thing I think that we're not raising boys to become those men anymore. And then the ones that are out there, the system has de-incentivized it so much to the point where like the guy on the train that strangled the guy that was trying to stab somebody, and then he almost went to jail, you know? So then when something happens, even if you're that type of guy that jumps up and wants to help, you're like, am I gonna, like, in this moment, am I going to the jail for the rest of my life? And then you hesitate, and you're like, maybe he's not really stabbing her. Maybe she's gonna live. And then, you know, she doesn't. So there's like that type of thing. And I think the majority of people in the world are not equipped to help or to give back in general. It's like they're consumers in every sense of the word. It's like they take from the system, but they're never prepared to give back. A natural disaster happens, and it's like people don't even know don't even know how to boil water, you know? So then you have something like that happen on the train, and the men there aren't equipped to fight, protect, and defend, and no one has any medical skills at all. Excuse me. No one has any medical skills at all to actually like save somebody's life, you know? Like unless you're like happen to be a nurse or a doctor or whatever, but like no one's going out of their way, generally speaking, to like take some EMT classes, take some first aid survival stuff, some wilderness safety, you know? It's just like, oh, somebody else will come save me. Take. You know, if I get stuck up on that mountain and I break my ankle, I'll just call, you know, and they'll send the search and rescue, and they'll save me. Take. You know, but I don't want to become a search and rescuer because, like, I got stuff to do. You know, like I got all this stuff. Too busy to help people. You know. Yeah, something's wrong there, for sure. Yeah. So something pretty awful, not pretty awful, something awful happened yesterday. Charlie Kirk was assassinated, murdered, you know? And I'm not a fan of Charlie Kirk, you know, by any means. Like, there are things I agreed with him on. There are things I did not agree with him on. You know, like I didn't consume a lot of his content. I knew who he was. Sometimes, like I saw a couple debates he did on like the Second Amendment and stuff like that, and I agreed with him for the most part. But then there's other things that I was like, nah, I don't really like. I see where you're going, but I don't, totally agree. Guess what? That's normal. That's normal. It is perfectly normal not to agree with somebody 100%. In fact, it's unrealistic to think that you would agree with every single belief somebody might have, But what I did agree with Charlie on was how important open conversations are, and debate, and sharing ideas. And the fact that that's what he was doing when he got assassinated, I think makes it like, it makes it worse, Because it's like, oh, it wasn't like he was like about to shoot somebody and then somebody shot him. It's like, no, he was just up there expressing himself in a debate format too. Like, that's the way he does all of his things. It's sort of like he speaks and then the microphone's open to other people to like challenge his ideas and stuff like that. And again, although I might not have agreed with what he was saying, I agree with his right to do it. And I agree that it's such a powerful tool to humanize both sides of a topic, Instead of just like making Reddit posts, just like, fuck those guys, yada, yada, yada. You stand in front of another living human being. They say their opinion. You say your opinion. Connection happens there. Even if you don't agree with what they're saying, you realize that it's coming from a human. And that makes you respect, to some degree, their opinion. Respecting an opinion and agreeing with an opinion are completely different. And I do not think people understand that anymore. Somewhere along the way, we lost that. We lost the ability to just like sit down and conversate with somebody and disagree with them without hating them. Like, we lost that. And I think one of the reasons why we lost it, and one of the reasons why things are so heated right now in the political space, is there's rhetoric on both sides, right? Both sides are just spewing things at one another. But when you dehumanize somebody, it's way easier to kill them. That's, that's the Holocaust. The Jews were dehumanized to the point where those guards didn't have any qualms, about shoving them all in the gas chamber and stuff. It was just like moving cattle to them because they had been dehumanized so much. And I think there's a trend where the words evil, Nazi, fascist, hate speech, these like terms are very dehumanizing. Now, I'm not even going to go into if they're true or not, right? I'm just saying they're dehumanizing. And You know, it's way easier to kill somebody when you truly feel that they are a fascist, Nazi, spewing hate speech, right? So when you draw that picture and you apply it to somebody and then hand a mentally ill person a gun, you loaded the gun for them, you know, and then you're just like, what's gonna happen here? Oh my God. I wouldn't condone that. I would never do that. But it happened, you know? And it's like, it's just not the America that I grew up in, you know? Like, just because somebody disagrees with you does not make them evil. It does not make it hate speech just because you don't agree with whatever they're saying, you know? You can't, like, preach out of one side of your mouth about the threats to democracy while you're shouldering your gun and shooting somebody expressing their freedom of speech. Like, what? What are we doing? You know, like, what are we doing? And the problem is mental illness. These concepts and these ideas and this rhetoric are falling on the ears of people that believe it 100%, you know? And then they go out and they do things like that. It's disgusting, you know? Like, it's disgusting. A human being lost their lives. They died in front of hundreds of people. Lots of footage. We'll talk about that in a little bit, but like, I'm not a religious person. You know, I think there's something after this and all that stuff, but like, I'm not like a Christian or whatever. You know what I mean? Like, it's hard to explain, but anyways, but I think religion has been extremely important. Important. I'm not saying good. I'm not saying bad things didn't happen. I'm just saying religion as a construct has been super important to human beings for millennia, you know, years and years and years and years and years. Now, for most people, it's not a part of their lives. So, where do they find meaning? Because there's that void. Took religion out. Now there's this void. And I think people replace that with their political ideology. You know, they're praying to the altar of the right or the left. And that just doesn't lead to good outcomes. But I think that that's one of the reasons, like, freaking, it's a cult, you know? Like, politics is very cult-like. Think about it. You usually have, like, a central figure leading the movement. You think you're right and the other side's wrong. And life would be better if everybody just believed what you believed. And you're some sort of a zealot leading the charge for your person that stands at some podium, you know. There's a lot of similarities between religion and politics. Well, that's why in most workplaces, those are the two topics that are forbidden: politics and religion. You know, it's because they're the same. And it is pretty much impossible to change somebody's mind once they have started down a path. Once they start down that path of their identity being formed by a belief system, good luck changing that. Good luck reasoning with them. Because as you're trying to reason with them, you're basically trying to convince them of their own existence. You know, they're like, wait a minute, I am so wrapped up, you know, I am this political party, or I am this sporting team. No, damn it, I'm an Eagles fan. You know, I hate those Raiders fans. I could just tell you were a Raiders fan. Just want to punch you in the face. I wear this jersey. You know? And then, like, what happens if the freaking Eagles just, like, go away? The team shuts down. They have a mental breakdown. I was an Eagles fan. Who am I? Yeah. So, and then, it's a little controversial here, but fuck it. So we have the lack of religion leaving a void in people's lives. And then there is the increase of women not having children. Right? So now you have all these millennials and stuff like that that are running around, probably divorced, don't have any kids. And so then where do they find the meaning, right? They don't have religion and they don't have kids to raise. So where do they put all that extra energy? Into politics, you know, right into politics. Because when you look at a lot of these like political rallies and riots and stuff like that, there's a lot of Karens running around. And I find that pretty interesting. You know, I feel like there has to be a connection there between, and again, I'm not saying like, oh, more religion would fix everything. It'd probably just give us other problems, you know? But I just think it's like, I think it's just like this bad concoction of stuff that is kindling, right? Adding kindling, and then the spark, and then it goes up. It's just, it's crazy. You know? And then like back to the mental illness. So it's easy to say, because I'm sure it's true, like this gunman, you know, lone gunman, he was just a crazy person. Well, yeah, clearly, right? I get behind that. I can be like, all right, he was a crazy person, acted on his own accord, you know what I mean? Like, don't hold all of society to something that he did. He's mentally ill. But then when you look at the response on the internet, you're like, holy shit. There is a lot of mentally ill people. Because if you can watch what just happened to a human being and not have it turn your stomach, something's wrong. Like, I was talking about not having empathy. Like, maybe you don't have any empathy, you know? And the other thing too, like for those that are like not as more casual about it, and they're just sort of like, yeah, well, you know, like he said mean things, so, you know, bad things happen to bad people. Right? If that's your stance or whatever. All right, I respect it. Did you watch the whole video, though? Did you watch the unedited video? I doubt it. I doubt it. I think a lot of people form their opinion and post their tweet and whatever and move on with their life and yada yada. But that was brutal. Brutal, disgusting. It should turn your stomach. Seeing that type of violence to any human being should turn your stomach. You know? If not, like, something's wrong. Something's clearly wrong. And here's an even more fucked up thing. There were some people in the crowd that actually started cheering after he got shot. The gunshot goes off. People are screaming. Charlie's slumped over, pumping all of his blood everywhere. And people literally are like, what is going on? What is going on? Like, if you're trying to convince me that Charlie was the bad one, you're not doing a good job by acting like that after seeing somebody literally murdered in front of you and you're cheering and you want me to believe that you're the good one? That you're on the right side of history? Like, what? What? No, you're clearly mentally ill too. You know, like, what is happening? Just, it's that, I think, is the most disturbing thing to me, is just like the lack of caring from humans. Like, holy smokes. Like, if you celebrate the brutal killing of another human, it is not coming from a place of love, tolerance, understanding, peace. It is coming from a place of hate. Hate. And that's dangerous because both sides are justifying hate. You know? And ramping things up. Dehumanizing is on both sides. On one side, everybody's a Nazi, fascist, bigot. And then on the other side, everybody's blue-haired, lesbian, trans people or whatever. You know, like both sides are just like, we have our guns cocked and ready, you know? And it's like, chill out. Like, chill out. Go through the process. We voted. This is what happened. We have to let it ride. You know, like, if you want to make a change, maybe go vote. Maybe become a community leader, you know, run for governor. Like, there's all these things. If you want change, this is not the way to change. This is not the way. This is not the way. It only leads to more violence. And I hope that there's no retaliation. There's no, copycat shootings and all that stuff. I guarantee you there will be. I guarantee you. It's inevitable. So yeah, if you want to have that, hey, bad things happen to bad people thing, if you want to have that point of view, that just very dismissive point of view, I hope you watch the whole thing. I hope you watch the whole footage. Because if not, your opinion is invalid to me. You know? Like, no, I want to hear that you sat there and watched somebody die. And if you still had that, all right. I'm going to judge you, but, you know? I had these conversations quite a bit with, like, back when BLM was happening and stuff, and it was like the defund the police thing, because I'm very pro law enforcement. And I could just tell that the majority of people that had this whole like defund the police thing truly didn't know, like truly did not know the types of stuff that police officers see every day. And I was like, I will respect your opinion if you go watch some body cam footage, unedited, no blurred, no. Like, I want you to see that crazy man stab that grandma in the neck, you know? And police having to deal with that and whatever, you know? Like, I will respect your opinion when you gather the evidence. If not, you're just a fucking shit poster. You're just shit posting, you know? Yeah. And again, I'm not team Charlie Kirk. Just pro-America. You know? Just pro-America. I think mental illness is the bottom. It's the crux of it all, though. It's the foundation. Do I have answers? No. I don't. I don't know. You know? It's it is what it is. I don't know. What do you guys think? Will I take a little sip? Mm-hmm. Yeah. I kind of feel like America's unrecognizable right now. Like somewhere along the line, we like got our wires crossed, you know? Like where somehow like saying something mean to somebody is like the same level of offense as murdering somebody. How do we get here? You know? Like the thing with the lady at the park that called the little kid the N-word and was like a racist or whatever. And then the kid that stabbed the other kid at the track meet and killed him. People were acting like they were the same thing. These are words. This is a dead person. These words didn't kill anybody. This did. Like, what are we doing? Like, how is that even a debate? How is it even a question? You know? It's like, you shut the fuck up. You go to jail. Case closed. But instead, it's like this person raised like $500,000, and then this person over here raised more. You know, like what? Yeah. I don't know. This week was heavy though. And then the 9/11, and I know like the Charlie's shooting overshadowed a lot of like the typical news coverage that you would get, you know? But that's still a sad day. It's still a sad day. I still think about seeing the people jumping out of the building. You know what I mean? I still think about that because it was on the news. I sat there and then they were like, you know, oh my God, this is happening. And I was like, holy shit. You know what? Like, yeah. I that's what I think of every 9/11. That's what I think of. Those people jumping out of the buildings. You know. Yeah. It's dark. Wish I had more answers. You know, and hopefully next week too, it's not as much really negative, heavy topics to cover. I hope we can cover some like events that actually have some levity to them, you know? But I actually have a video. We will watch this because I think this is the most recent update, I think. Let's see. What's happening here? Yeah. All right. So this is, I believe this is like the most released information on the Charlie Kirk suspect. So let's just give it a watch and just see. So this is by David Hookstead. Hookstead. He does mostly he's like military stuff, so like about Navy SEALs and stuff like that, but he's branched out and he's covering this. So let's give it a watch, see what he has to say. See what's going on.
Everyone, we have some significant updates in the hunt for the suspect in the tragic loss of life of Charlie Kirk. I have to be careful with my words to make sure YouTube doesn't take the video down because this needs to be seen. We have two photos. We have two different photos that the FBI has released of the person they are looking for, as well as they are offering a massive reward if anyone can ID this person and they can bring him into custody. I'm filming this the afternoon of September 11th. As of the filming of this video, there has been nobody arrested. They have not found this person. I do want to stress this is an incredibly fluid situation. They could get him at any time. As of the filming of this video,
maybe they've gotten him since I went live, actually.
The actual person responsible for shooting Charlie Kirk. But we now have a look of a person that they are hunting as a massive manhunt is underway. I repeat, a massive manhunt is underway. So we're going to get into it, and I'm going to explain. I'm going to show you the photos. We'll get into the reward information, and then I'm just going to give you my thoughts, my continued thoughts on this tragedy. Before we get into it, as always, please make sure to like and subscribe. Totally free. Huge boost to the channel. Comment with your thoughts. What do you think about the tragic incident? What do you think about Charlie Kirk
spending too much time on
here
Reddit
with us? I know a lot of people are hurting. Please share your thoughts in the comments. No comment is too small or too big. I understand the gravity of the situation. I understand a lot of people are very hurt right now. Hit the bell, all notifications turned on. You won't miss a thing. And then right here, Instagram, David_Hookstead, XD.
And again, if anybody has any links or whatever
information, please send it there as well. If you know anything, please send it there. Now let's get into it. As we know, Charlie was shot and killed at Utah Valley University during an event on September 10th, shortly after noon local time. He was speaking to the crowd. He was taking questions. He was doing what he loved to do. And that in that moment, a gunman snatched his life away from him in brutal and horrific fashion.
It was fucking horrific.
It was evil of the worst kind on public display. Somehow the shooter was able to slip away.
You know what I mean?
Was not captured at the moment. They didn't even really know what was going on with the guy, who he was, where he was.
Something you can't unsee. And honestly, I didn't even go looking for it. I was like, oh shit, like he got shot. And I looked on Twitter and it was like, oh my God, he definitely got shot. And then they were like, condition unknown. I'm like, I could tell you right now, like, I think everybody knew, you know, everybody that saw the video, they knew, but trying to keep hope, I guess.
What had been used? There's conflicting information about ammunition that was found. There's conflicting information of pretty much across the board. So I'm going to stick to what we know and what we can prove, and then we will go from there. So the FBI held a press conference, and let me see, and I made a video on that earlier today. Let me see if we will probably have to show that again. And I want to warn you all that this is obviously a very serious situation. But the biggest update we have now, I'm going to put this on the screen for y'all. This right here, I'm going to click the photos. This right here, it says FBI Salt Lake City.
And I think they actually, like, because I just brought it up on my phone, it seems like they released more images since I've gone live, you know? And yeah, maybe we'll look at those after the video.
We are asking for the public's help identifying this person of interest in connection with the fatal shooting of Charlie Kirk at Utah Valley University. This guy right here, black hat, sunglasses. He appears to have an American flag on a black shirt, appears to possibly be an eagle as well on that shirt. If you know where that shirt originated from, or you know for sure what is on that shirt, please, please, please let me know in the comments. The more information we get, the better it is. There's no such thing in a situation like this as too much information. So that is the first photo that was shared. Mm-hmm. This is the second photo of the individual. Black sunglasses, black hat, black shirt, American flag. And again, it looks like he has an eagle on his shirt there. These are the photos that have been released by the FBI. Okay. Then right here.
And again, there's more, I think.
Put this up on the screen. This says the FBI is offering a reward of up to $100,000 for information leading to the identification and arrest of individuals responsible. Notice how it says individuals, possibly multiple people, but we only have photos of one person. They did detain two other people, interrogated them, let them go.
The guy with his pants falling down.
That's an important thing to know.
Who is he?
Responsible for the murder of Charlie Kirk on September 11th, 2025 at Utah Valley University in Orem, Utah. So let me pull this off the screen real quick. What we have here are two photos that are pretty grainy. We don't really know what is going on there. We don't really know who this guy is.
Cameras always look like they're taken with a potato anyways.
At all. And I apologize because we are getting new information as I'm doing this. So I'm trying to get you guys the best and quickest information as it comes in. This is heartbreaking. And we as a country need to come together. We need to set aside petty differences. I don't care if you're left or right now. We have someone on the loose who in broad daylight, stole a man's life.
Yeah.
And he did it in the most evil way possible in front of thousands of witnesses and then disappeared like smoke into the air.
Oh, and that footage will be out on the internet forever.
Now we're starting to get
like his kids will see that, you know, one day, and that's
about what is going on. I pray for everyone involved that we are able to get answers. And I pray for everyone involved that the people or person responsible for this are brought to justice. We can't live this way. Mm-hmm. As a society, we absolutely can't live this way.
Facts.
Now, there are more details from the FBI. I'm going to put this on the stage. This is from the FBI. These are from the press conference that was held today on Thursday. For those of you who didn't see these comments, let's get into it.
I'd like to thank all the investigators that are involved in this. They have worked their way through this. We were able to track the movements of the shooter. Starting at 11:52 a.m., the subject arrived on campus, shortly away from campus. We have tracked his movements onto the campus, through the stairwells, up to the roof, across the roof to a shooting location.
Yeah, you know, like when they first were like, "We got the guy," and I look and it was look like Bernie Sanders and he can't even walk and his pants are falling down. I was like, that guy got on a roof? Already I was like, I don't know about this. Like, that guy got on a roof and then ran across the roof and jumped down. I don't think so.
After the shooting, we were able to track his movements as he moved to the other side of the building, jumped off of the building, and fled off of the campus and into a neighborhood. Our investigators have worked through those neighborhoods, contacting anybody they can with doorbell cameras, witnesses, and have thoroughly worked through those communities, trying to identify any leads. We do have good video footage of this individual.
And this is what you're seeing now.
Release that at this time.
They did release the
we're
photos.
working through some technologies and some ways to identify this individual. If we are unsuccessful, we will reach out to you as the media and we will push that publicly to help us identify them.
Which I think they've
So
been
that's
unsuccessful.
critically important, because earlier in the press conference, they indicated they would not release the videos and photos if they could ID the guy.
Mm-hmm.
And now it appears they have not been successful in IDing him. So now the photos are going public. And there's another part here where they're going to talk about the weapon.
Charlie Kirk. I can tell you that we have recovered what we believe is the weapon that was used in yesterday's shooting. It is a high-powered bolt-action rifle. That rifle was recovered in a wooded area where the shooter had fled. So the FBI laboratory.
I guess it wasn't an AR-15. I thought it sounded like one, but
investigators
or like a 308. I don't think it was either. I think it was a 30-06.
A palm print and forearm imprints for analysis. Now, I understand there are a lot of questions.
So now I'll pull this off the screen for you. Guys, I understand the horrific nature of this. I understand that people are hurting. He leaves behind a wife and 2 kids and a lot of people who like them. And there's a lot of confusion out there. There's a lot of hate. There's a lot of emotion. There's a ton of justified anger.
Mm-hmm.
We as a country have got to figure out a way to rid this cancer that encourages and pushes people to do this. We are better than this. And in a civilized society, this kind of behavior absolutely, under no circumstances, should ever be tolerated.
Yeah.
Ever.
Facts.
And the fact you're watching this right now is a sign you agree with me.
It's just not the way we do
There's
things.
people out there who
know?
take extreme views, and those insane people do the things we watched happen on Wednesday, September 10th. I think I might have said it happened on Tuesday earlier in the video. I apologize for that. It is enraging, and it's every bit equally as sad and heartbreaking that a husband, a father, a son, at the age of 31 is no longer with us. And we cannot let that lead to more instability.
Yeah.
The people responsible for this must be caught. People or person must be caught.
Yeah.
They must be held to account for their actions.
100%.
And we cannot live in a society where this kind of action exists. You have a First Amendment right. You have the right to whatever viewpoints you want. You have the right to the freedom of expression, freedom of speech. And you shouldn't be in danger because that's what you choose to do. Express that First Amendment right. That's what Charlie.
And the sad thing was he was expressing his First Amendment right, but it was also in a setting where other people could express themselves too. You know what I mean? Which that for whatever reason, that just like, to me, that makes it worse. You know, it makes it worse. It wasn't like he was, I don't know, like it was bad when Trump almost got shot too. And I was like, Jesus, like what is going on? You know? Excuse me, but it's like that was in a forum where you had the political leader like preaching out. It's like a one-way conversation, you know? But the way Charlie did things typically was there was like time, or at least an opportunity for people to step up and give their opinion. And if you're so convinced beyond a shadow of a doubt, if you're so convinced that you're right, then you should be able to sit up there and debate somebody and change people's minds, right? If you can't do that, and instead you need to shoot the other person so that they stop talking, then maybe you shouldn't be so sure about whatever it is that you believe. Because if it was a popular opinion held by many, you should have no problem sitting up there debating and changing people's minds and standing toe to toe with somebody who has an opposing viewpoint. It shouldn't shake you at all. You should just be like, all right, yeah, cool, boom, boom. But the fact that you can't means either your reasoning isn't sound or it's not a very popular belief held by many, and then you have to resort to eliminating somebody so that they can't talk anymore. That's your way of winning a debate.
He did, and it cost him his life. And we would be doing him a disservice if we turn a blind eye to this. Unfortunately, that is not happening. So I pray for him. I pray for his soul. I pray for his wife. I pray for his 2 beautiful kids. I pray for all of his family and friends. And this country would be a lot better off if we did a little more praying. I sincerely mean that. But I want to know what you guys think. Please let me know in the comments below. Please let me know what you think about this tragedy, what you think about Charlie. Where do we go from here as a country?
Great question. I think that's where I'm going to end it. Where do we go from here as a country? I wish I had the answers. I really do. Heavy week. But hopefully we'll be back next week. And maybe there'll be some lighter topics that we can cover. Yeah, I don't want to get like super political on here, but maybe it would be kind of fun to, instead of reacting to videos, I think maybe it'd be better time spent like reacting to like modern times, current events. That's the word for it. So, all right, catch you all next Thursday, 8 p.m. Eastern. Till then,